Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is stick. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that we use this verb. The first way you might hear stick used is to mean to push a sharp or pointed object into or through something else. So, for this first definition, you might think of a needle, and perhaps you're going to sew a button on, right? You're going to stick the needle through the button. So, you're pushing that sharp or pointed object through the button. A second way you might hear stick used is to mean to carelessly put something in some place. So sometimes we use this verb around the house, right? Where did I stick that? Right? So, like, kind of, as you're coming home, maybe you're setting your purse down and not really thinking about where it goes or in what spot. A third way you might hear stick used is to mean to adhere or cling to something. Um, for this particular definition, I'd encourage you to think about your laundry. So, just yesterday, I was looking for my second sock in the wash, and it was sticking to a sheet, right? So it was adhering or clinging to, right? I had to kind of pull it apart. A fourth way you might hear stick used is to mean to be in a particular position and be unable to move, right? So we might think of a car sticking in the mud, right? Unable to move forward. You should know that stick is an irregular verb. To make the progressive form of this verb, you're going to add ing to form sticky. The past tense and participle forms of this verb, though, have a different spelling. So we're going to switch the I in the middle of the word to a U to make stuck. Stuck. Okay. Now, we've talked about a few common ways to use stick, but there really are so many other ways through phrasal verbs, and that's what we're going to focus on next. So, one phrasal verb you might hear with stick is to stick around. Generally, this means to linger, and linger might be a new word for you, so think stay in some particular place for an extended period of time. An example here: I'll stick around until he arrives. So someone is saying, I'm going to stay in this particular place until this other person arrives. I'll stick around is an example of the simple future using will. Someone might be making a promise as they state that. The next phrasal verb you might hear is to stick at or stick with. Both of these can be used to mean that someone is continuing to do something, even though there might be some difficulties or some challenges. An example of this: if you stick at it, eventually you will learn how to swim. So here, someone's saying if you continue to try, or maybe it's if you continue to take lessons, right? So even though it might be challenging, it might be hard to do this, if you continue doing it, you're going to learn. The next phrasal verb we'll discuss is stick by. This can have a couple different meanings. Two common ones we'll discuss. First, stick by can be used to mean to support someone through a difficulty or through a difficult time. An example here: her friends stuck by her through her divorce. Here's an example of the simple past tense, and we're saying the friends supported her through this challenging time. A second way we can use stick by is to mean to support a decision or support a particular opinion. Here's an example: despite all the evidence, some people have stuck by their decision to remain unvaccinated. Have stuck by is an example of the present perfect. So, um, they continue to sort of support this opinion um, and their decision, in this case, to not get a COVID-19 vaccine. Another phrasal verb you might hear is stick it to. This means that one person is treating someone else, or maybe a group of people, badly or unfairly. Here's an example of this. The teacher always sticks it to her least favorite student. This is an example of the simple present. We're describing a habit or routine. And here in this sentence, someone is suggesting that the teacher treats certain students unfairly or badly. Another phrasal verb to discuss is stick out. This means that something is easily being noticed. An example here. He sticks out because he's 6'10". So here, he sticks out, also simple present. I'm discussing a fact, okay? And talking about someone who's very, very tall. And that is why this person is easily noticed. There's a second way we can use stick out, and that means to extend a part of one's body. Here's an example of that. Stick out your hand, I'll share some candy. Right? So we want someone to do this action, to extend their hand. Stick out your hand is an example of the imperative. We're giving someone a command. Another phrasal verb you might hear is to stick it out. This also means to continue doing something that is difficult or challenging. Here's an example. I'm going to stick it out at this job for at least a few months. Here's another simple future sentence. This time it's be going to. Someone's going to say, I'm going to continue working this particular job for at least a few months before I try and find another job, maybe one that is less difficult or has some benefit to it that is better than this current one. Another phrasal verb you might hear is stick to. This means to not change something. An example here, we're sticking to our plan. Okay, so here, this is present progressive or present continuous, and we're talking about someone continuing, not making a change to their plan. Another phrasal verb you might hear is stick together, and a second way you might hear stick with used, both are going to mean the same here, is to support someone or to remain loyal to them. Let me give you two examples of how you might hear these used. So a couple might say, we've stuck together for 20 years. So we've been supportive, it doesn't have to be a like husband, wife, or couple. We could be talking about a team. Maybe it's a group of employees here, right? So they've supported each other, they've remained loyal. When I use with, though, the thing that changes here is that we're going to have an object after with. So an example here, he's stuck with her for 20 years. Both of these sentences are present perfect, right? So we've got contractions, but it's have stuck together, has stuck with. Again, that idea of remaining loyal or kind of connected. Another phrasal verb you might hear is stick up. This means to stand on one end. An example, your hair is sticking up. Right? So sometimes as I look back at these videos, I see that mine is as well. Is sticking up is an example of the present progressive. A second way we can use stick up means to rob someone using a weapon. An example here, he stuck up the bank and stole thousands. This is an example of the simple past tense. Another phrasal verb, stick up for. Now we're back to supporting or defending someone. An example here, you never stick up for me. Right? So here, someone is using the simple present, talking about what they observe as a habit or a routine, and feeling like this other person isn't supporting them or defending them. The last phrasal verb we're going to look at today is stick with. This means to not be forgotten. An example here, that story has stuck with me all week. So I haven't forgotten it. I keep thinking about it. I'll note again that I've used stick with a couple different times. This last one has a meaning that doesn't work in the same way as like stick at or stick together. My last sentence here, that story has stuck with me, is another example of the present perfect. Okay. Now let's take a moment to look at some words that are related to our verb stick. And the first word we have is just the noun form of this word. So same spelling, same pronunciation. Stick can be a thin piece of wood that has fallen from a tree or maybe been cut from a tree. An example of this in a sentence could be gather some sticks for the fire. A second way to use this noun is to refer to a quarter-pound rectangular block of butter or margarine. Sometimes you'll see this word stick used in a recipe. Like my example sentence, this recipe calls for 2 sticks of butter. Third way we can use stick is to refer to a short piece of wood that's used to impale, which again just means stick in, food. You might see this at summer fairs and festivals. An example of this in a sentence, you can have a hot dog on a stick at the fair. Okay, so the idea, this piece of wood has been put through this hot dog, this item of food. A fourth way we can use the noun stick is to refer to a long, thin piece of something. An example here, he found a stick of dynamite. And so if you think of movies, TV shows, right, maybe even cartoons, you can sort of picture that thin piece. A fifth way to use the noun stick is to refer to a long implement that's made of wood and it's used to hit or direct a ball or puck. So this definition is most common in sports. An example, they bought new hockey sticks for the kids. The sixth way we can use the noun stick is to refer to a gear or control lever. So you might hear this in connection to driving. Someone might say, can you drive a stick? Another word for that is a manual car. Most automobiles made now are automatic, so you don't need that extra lever to accelerate or move at a faster speed. But sometimes, again, you'll still hear people say very proudly that they can drive a stick. The last word we're going to look at today is the adjective sticky. Okay. The first way we could use this adjective is to refer to something that is designed to stick to things on contact, or maybe it's covered in something that sticks. So, an example here, the children's fingers are sticky from eating. Right? So maybe there's been sugar or something sweet that's now covering their hands, their fingers, and causing it to sort of stick as it touches other things. A second way you might hear the adjective sticky used is to refer to or describe a situation that involves some problems or difficulties. An example of that relationship is a bit sticky. Right? So in this situation, we're not talking about people who get along. Their relationship might have kind of ups and downs and some issues or problems. The last way we can use the adjective sticky is to describe hot, damp, or muggy weather. An example here, it's always sticky in August in the Midwest. So I can tell you this is a true statement based on where I live. It gets very hot, humid, and muggy in the month of August. I want to thank Robert again for making this suggestion, and I encourage you to suggest other verbs you'd like to see in future videos. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.